All right, so let's go ahead and get started by coming into a comfortable seated position. As always, you could bring a pillow or block under your hips, or you could come down to a constructive rest if that would feel more comfortable for this prolonged meditation. But wherever you're at, we want our spine to be lengthened. If you're seated, you could take a crisscross applesauce or even just send the legs out long, but keeping the spine straight, the shoulders relaxed, no matter where you've decided to land in this easy opening position. I invite you to close your eyes or simply soften your gaze and take a moment to check in with your posture as you sit or relax back. Taking this moment to begin to scan the body for sensations as we bring our awareness down to our feet and then up to the legs, allowing our awareness of sensation to come through our hips, our belly, and torso, around the back, noticing any sensations in the hands, or the arms, or the shoulders. Allowing your awareness to come into your neck, throat, and then the face and jaw, your mouth, and even your nose. Really bringing the awareness all the way up to the very top of your head. And then we turn that awareness inward as we take a moment to simply notice the breath, whether it's feeling high or shallow, deep or slow. Not changing it yet, but simply noticing where it is naturally. And then begin to notice anything going on in the mind, the thoughts or the emotions. Maybe noticing your energy level today. Or checking in with your nervous system to see if you're feeling anxious or relaxed. And simply seeing how you're doing right now. Begin to see if you can accept whatever is going on in the body, in the mind, without pushing it away. Taking this moment simply to step back and observe it all, the being of you in this moment. We'll start to get into our breathing exercise for today, a theta meditation breath. With this breathing exercise, we breathe in, extending our inhale for a count of 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then pausing at the top, holding the breath for 4, 3, 2, 1, and then extending our exhale to a count of 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then immediately starting back on that 7 count inhale. As you continue the cycle, breathing in for a count of 7, pausing for a count of 4, exhaling for a count of 11. Now, after you take a few cycles of this breath, You are more than welcome to release the counting or the function of the breath and your focus, and instead focus on simply feeling that breath, that long inhale, that short pause at the top, and then that really long exhale, completely emptying out every bit of air from your lungs. And we'll continue just like that for a few cycles of breath on your own. This breath is a wonderful breath for helping us remember to slow down. Before I found meditation or yoga, mindfulness, I never really appreciated the sensation of the sun warming my skin in quite the same way, or the sounds of birds in the morning, or even the wetness of grass on my bare feet. But mindfulness and meditation have continued to teach me to slow down to the speed of life. Slowing down is something I equate with waking up. So many of us live our lives asleep, numb, stuck in the busyness of everyday life. Our minds consumed with regrets of the past or fears for the future. We can wake up to the present moment, though, and open our eyes to the beauty of now. Thich Nhat Hanh, a Buddhist teacher, author, and monk, often describes how we are so good at preparing to live, but not very good at actually living. We are willing to dedicate years of our lives to get diplomas, car, house, but waste the beauty of this present moment. When I find myself getting caught up in where I am going, this teaching always helps to slow me down. It allows me to savor where I am currently at. When we get too focused on results and comparing where we are on our path to others, instead, let's enjoy this present moment. As we start to take these last few breaths, maybe releasing that counted breath, that theta breath, if you haven't already. Simply notice what's here and now. Notice the sounds of life that are happening around you. And notice those sounds as they rise and fall. Beautiful job today. We'll take this last moment in our grounding meditation to offer ourselves a moment of gratitude that we took time out of our busy day, our busy week, to connect with slowing down. Throughout our practice today, I want us to imagine a sloth moving through the woods, channeling that sloth energy, moving oh so slowly between one posture and the next. As you're ready, begin to wiggle fingers and fingers and toes, maybe slowly allowing the eyes to float open. If you came down to a constructive rest, let's all come on up into a seated position here. Again, maybe with something under the hips or maybe not, but we're sitting up tall through our spine. And I want us to allow our arms to start to gently float up like there's air pushing them up slowly towards the sky. And once the hands reach to their topmost position, maybe your gaze looks up between the hands. And then with an exhale, slowly start to let those hands come down to heart center. And then take that circle just one more time on your own. Slowly letting the arms flow out to the side and float up towards the ceiling. Maybe looking up as the hands reach up. And then exhaling to slowly bring it down through heart center. Beautiful job. All righty. Start to turn to the side, sending the legs out in front of you. We'll keep a nice generous bend in the knees. Let the heels come down to the floor and lift those toes up. And then we'll start to sit into a straight spine here. We're going to take this beautiful loving boat position, and as we inhale, slowly let those arms float up just like before. Really reach them up high. And then with our exhale, go ahead and allow yourself to hinge forward, letting your torso come towards your thighs. You can rest your hands on the outside of your legs or even under the thigh muscles as you curl your chin to chest, finding a little rounding here, a loving boat as we take just a couple of breaths, inhaling fully and exhaling to allow yourself to soften into the rounding of the spine. Great job. With our next inhale, float the arms up and slowly allow the legs to start to straighten. Now you can always keep a bend in the knees or start to press out through the heels, working them towards a straight seated staff position. And then with our exhale, go ahead and allow the arms to slowly come down and begin to capture that right knee as you pull your right heel in towards your body, coming into a sage twist. We'll bring our right hand behind us to the floor or maybe a prop, and then we'll take our left arm, hooking it around that right knee, or maybe taking the elbow to the outside of the knee. Each inhale lets us sit up a little longer and taller. And each exhale, twist that left shoulder towards your right knee a little more. Just as slowly as you came into this, unwind the spine, sending the arms up and overhead and that right leg long. Our exhale, take it to the left. The left heel comes in towards your hip as you twist the left hand behind you, capturing left knee with right arm or elbow, taking your twist towards that left shoulder. Beautiful job. One last breath of your sage twist. Our inhale brings us back slowly through center. Seated staff with arms lifted overhead. And then with our exhale, let's take it into a forward fold. You can grab your legs, your toes, the ground, or even your strap and wrap it around the outside of your toes. But start to walk yourself a little bit forward, rounding through the spine, curling chin towards your chest. Begin to slowly roll one vertebra at a time up to a straight spine. And then go ahead and take those knees off to the side as we come over into a hero's pose. We bring the knees and heels together or separate them just a little bit. Maybe we bring a prop under the hips or we tuck the toes. Wherever we're at in our hero's pose, we're sitting up tall though. Lengthening our spine. And we're going to take some wrist stretch. We're going to be on our wrists just a little bit today. So taking a moment here to give them some love first. So we'll take our hands in front of us. We'll point the palms away from us and the fingertips down, and then start to bring them down to the ground, letting the fingertips touch the floor. And then as it feels appropriate through your body, begin to press the palms down towards the floor. Now they don't have to come all the way to the floor. You can stay up pretty high on it, but it might feel a little better and or different or pleasant or unpleasant or even neutral. So exploring until you find the stretch here through your wrist that feels good. Great job. We'll take one more breath here. See if you can sink it a little lower, maybe. Pushing that stretch a little to your edge. Great job. And then inhale to release back up to your hero's pose. If tucking your toes feels intense, go ahead and untuck them if you had them tucked. And then let's bring our hands back together at prayer center, and then we'll interlace the fingers. We're going to start to take a wave from the elbow to elbow, going in one direction, lifting the one side and then rolling through to the other side. All right, go ahead and come back to a flat position with the arms, and then start to take your wave in the opposite direction. This is going to feel really awkward. It might not even feel like you're doing the same thing, but that's okay. All right, great job. Go ahead back into that prayer pose with fingers interlaced, and then simply roll the wrist in front of you in one direction a couple times, and then reverse that a couple of times. Beautiful job. All right, release the hands, and we're going to come into our first tabletop of the day. Hands under shoulders, knees under hips. We're going to pay attention to our alignment of our spine, making sure that it's straight from the hips all the way to the top of the head. And with our next exhale, I want us to come into a cow pose, dropping the belly towards the mat and starting to lift the gaze and lift the heart forward and up. Beautiful job. Hold in your cow for just a moment longer. And then I want us to notice the difference when we go just right back to that flat back, tabletop. And take this flow just a couple of times, sinking into cow, and then bring it back to flat back. Noticing how that feels through that lower spine. To take this micro movement through the back. You're doing great. All right, last time, come back through your tabletop. Exhale, cow pose. This time, inhale to take it through a cat pose. Really press the ground away from you, pulling the spine towards the ceiling, and hold there. And then just as slowly as you can possibly manage, seeing if you can go even slower with each cycle of breath. Take a couple of slow cat cows. Noticing how the spine moves as you move. All right, go ahead and come back to your straight spine slowly. And we're going to take and engage our core just a little bit. So we have options here, either keeping the knees planted on the floor or tucking the toes and let the knees hover just off the floor for a couple of breaths. At any point, if you have those knees hovering, feel free to drop them back down. In whichever knees down or up position we have, we're going to take our right heel and slowly bring it up towards our hip and then touch it back down. And then shift sides and take the left heel towards the hip and back down. Take it at your own speed. Seeing if you can slow it down though, from whatever your natural instinct is, and go a little bit slower. Noticing how it feels as you control the movement with your abdominals, not just the legs. All right, great job. Balance out both sides. If the knees are lifted, go ahead and bring them back down to the mat. And then let's go ahead and come into a heroes and give our wrist a roll out. Beautiful job. All right, come back into your tabletop. And then let's come into a plank or a half plank, having the shoulders over the wrist. The knees can be down and toes lifted, or the toes down and knees lifted, engaging through the core wherever we're at. All right, we're doing a beautiful job. Let's go ahead and bring our right hand to the center of our space. Keeping the right knee down, we're going to turn into a rounded side plank, keeping that top leg extended, the bottom knee bent, and then we work to stack wrists and shoulders in a straight line. Really feeling that opening through the body. All right, as we exhale, come back through center. And then let's take it over to a grounded side plank on the left side. Stacking wrists and shoulders, extending top leg long. Beautiful job. Slow as you can, exhale through center, plank pose. And then go ahead and push yourself into a tabletop. And as we inhale, we'll find our way into a downward facing dog. Lifting the hips up, pedaling through the legs. Now, if you're feeling any uncomfortability in the wrist or the lower hips, your downward dog can always come to a prop like a wall or a bed or something nearby where your hands are hip distance and you're just taking that downward dog to a different angle. Wherever you're at in your downward dog, take just a few pedals of the legs, few big breaths. And then we're going to find a little bit of stillness. As slowly as we can, we're going to inhale to lift the heels up high. And then as slowly as we can, we're going to exhale to bring the heels down as low as they go. We'll then look towards our legs and then start to walk your hands back towards your feet as we come into a forward fold. Hands on the floor on our legs, or maybe on a prop. We'll take just a moment here, and as we inhale, we press into our hands to halfway lift, figure 7. Our exhale hinges back into our forward fold a little bit deeper, and as we inhale, we're going to take a really slow roll to a mountain pose, keeping our hands by our hips as we rise, our shoulders lengthen up towards the sky, the head reaches up. Beautiful job. From our mountain pose, let's circle hands up and overhead, reaching them up high. Now we can keep our right hand on our hip or keep our hands together, but we're going to start to lean over towards the right. Great job. Come back through center. Up on the inhale. Exhale to the left. Inhale through center. With our exhale, we slowly bring those hands to a prayer at heart center and slice down into our forward fold. Beautiful job. Inhale to halfway lift. Exhale to fold. We're going to bring our right hand to the center of our space, and then like a bow and arrow, we're going to pull that archer arm towards the ceiling. Bend your right knee as well as you take that left hand up towards the ceiling. Beautiful job. Now try to slowly lower the hand, way more slowly than you lifted it. Replace the left hand with the right, and then slower than you did the last one, pull your archer arm up towards the ceiling. Beautiful job. Take it one more time on each side, seeing if you can go slower and slower with each cycle. Beautiful job. Alrighty. With that next exhale, release into your forward fold. We're gonna bend the knees so deeply we can bring the hands to the floor, and we're gonna step it back into our tabletop once more. From our tabletop, let's go ahead and begin to lower down onto our bellies, and we're gonna come into a Sphinx pose. So maybe you bring your elbows down to the floor, shoulder distance apart, or you could keep the elbows off the floor and widen the hands. We're gonna take a nice back bend here, and if taking it down on the floor didn't work for you, you can always take this back bend standing against a wall or another surface in your home, and take it by lifting up the gaze wherever you're at. Now we're going to take just a moment here in our Sphinx pose to look towards our right shoulder, and then towards our left. And then slowly start to find some neck movement that feels organic to you in this moment. It could be taking half circles or full circles. You could just take the head up or down, or you could hold it in one position or another. Beautiful job. One last breath here of exploration. Our inhale pushes us up to a tabletop. Great job. Alrighty. From our tabletop, we're going to come into a crescent lunge. So we have some options here. If you're going to stay on the floor with a kneeling crescent lunge, go ahead and maybe bring some cushioning under your knees from your tabletop. If it would feel better to not have the knee on the ground, that is an option as well. So we're going to bring the right leg forward and keep the left leg back for this first crescent lunge. Again, maybe keeping the knee on the ground, or if it's better for your body, lift that knee up and come up high. So wherever you're at in your crescent lunge, there's a bend in both knees. We're sinking our hips down and forward. We're pulling those thigh muscles towards each other. Our belly is engaged. You can keep your hands on that front knee. You could bring it up to a prayer at heart center, or maybe you send them long alongside the ears, reaching them up towards the sky. Beautiful crescent lunge. As slowly as we can, we're going to start to bring our left hand over towards that right knee, and then windmill that right arm back behind you. Inhale to come back through center. And then with our exhale, we're going to drop our hands to the floor on either side of our foot, or maybe to a prop. Leave your left hand on the floor, and then just like that archer, pull your right arm up towards the ceiling. Exhale to release. And we're going to switch sides. So if we're taking this from the grounded version, you'll step that right knee back into your tabletop and then move the left knee forward. If you're taking it from a standing variation, it might feel better to step up and then step back. So wherever you're at, we're moving left foot forward. We're coming back into our crescent lunge of choice, either back knee grounded or lifted. And then when we're ready, hands come up As we find our crescent lunge, we hinge the hips forward. And again, maybe hand stays on your knee or a prayer, or maybe extended in the air. Find that slow, steady breath here. And then slowly transitioning to our twist towards that front knee, taking the left hand behind the spine, a little or a lot. Beautiful job. Inhale through your crescent lunge of choice. Slow exhale brings hands to the floor or props outside of the legs. Bringing hand, left, right, opposite hand to the floor. We use an archer arm to lift the upper arm towards the ceiling and twist. Lovely. Let's exhale, slowly releasing. And inhale back into your tabletop once more. Today's flow is a little bit of a moon flow, meaning we're going to keep fairly low to the ground for a majority of the practice, although there will be also times for some standing poses as well. Alrighty, from here, I want us to come back into our plank or our half plank. And then we're going to bring our right hand right under our face as we set up into that grounded side plank once more. But this time, as we extend that top arm towards the ceiling, I want us to start to take shoulder circles, really rotating through that ball and socket joint of the top arm. Now go ahead and reverse those circles. Really move slow here. We don't want to be rushing through this. We want it to be nice and slow and steady. Great job. On our next inhale, lift that arm back up so you're stacking wrist and shoulders. Take your top leg and draw it behind you just a little bit, and then start to let the top shoulder open behind you as well. In this modified wild thing. Beautiful. Come back through your side plank, moving the foot forward and the arm forward. Come down through half plank. And then let's take it on over to the other side. Left hand comes over face, under face. Arch your arm, that right arm up towards the ceiling. Stacking your wrists and shoulders. And then start to take those shoulder circles slow as you can. Beautiful job. Now go ahead and reverse those shoulder circles. Inhale to stack wrist and shoulders in a straight line. Great. Now we're going to start to take that top leg. We're going to half circle it behind us and then let that top shoulder open up behind us for a little back bend. Wild thing, variation. Inhale to stack hands and bring that top foot back to center. Exhale, go ahead and bring yourself into a tabletop. Great job. And then tuck your toes and inhale to come to stand on your knees for a moment. Beautiful job. We've done a lot of work on those wrists. So let's take our right hand out in front of us and pull it back a finger back at a time. As we inhale, we pull it back. As we exhale, we release. Take it at your own speed through each of your fingers on the right hand. Once you reach the thumb, take it out to the side and then back. And then switch over to the other hand when you're ready. Moving one finger at a time for each breath. Inhaling back Exhale to release. Great job. Feel free to take any type of movement you might need through those wrists. All righty. From our standing on our knees, we have our toes tucked behind us. And we're going to take our right leg out to the side as we set up for a gate pose. We keep our left side really straight here as we start to send that left arm up towards the ceiling. We're going to take our right arm. We're going to extend it slowly down our right leg as we hinge over to the right, making sure to keep that top shoulder curled to the wall behind us before we extend the arm overhead. Great job. Let's inhale to come through center. Step the right leg in and the left leg out. This time we straighten up through the right side. Inhale, right arm up and overhead. Keeping that shoulder pulled back, we begin to slide down that left leg over toward the left. Great job. We'll inhale through center, bringing that left leg back in. We'll tuck the toes behind us, both behind us. And then as we inhale, we let the arms float up towards the ceiling. And with our exhale, we bring them down through a prayer at heart center. And then we'll take them to our hips. You can keep them on the outer hips, or maybe like you're putting them in jean pockets with the fingers tips down on the glutes and the elbows pulling in towards the side. Whichever variation we're choosing, we start to take our gaze up to where the room and the ceiling meet as we push our hips forward and start to find a little hinge back. Now, if you'd like to go a little bit deeper, you can take your gaze even farther up into the ceiling. Beautiful opening. Let's inhale to come back to our straight spine. And then with our exhale, we're going to take our knees a little bit wider than hip distance and our feet a little bit wider than hip distance. And we're going to start to sink the hips down. Now, if you want to put a prop under your hips, you're more than welcome to do that. Or you could sit in between those legs if that's comfortable and available to you. We're going to take a reclined hero's pose here. So we have some options with our reclined hero's pose. You can always bring a prop like a block behind you and have your hands resting on that prop. The goal is to get our fingertips pointing towards our hips, no matter how we're using the props to help us do that, or if we're using the floor. And we can keep our heart lifted and high. If you have the availability, maybe you sink down onto elbows or even the lower back here. Getting into a beautiful quad stretch wherever you're at today. Lifting heart. Now we want to make sure that we're not dumping our head back down towards the mat, but instead we're keeping our neck lengthened, supported, and the head feels strong here. Beautiful job. With our next inhale, push yourself back up to standing on your knees. And then we'll all come back up to our mountain pose, standing at the top of our mat. Beautiful job. We're going to get into some balance challenges next. So as always, you're welcome to be close to a wall or maybe have a strap nearby for the balance challenges, or even blocks or anything else that might help assist you in a balance challenge. So we come into our mountain pose, making sure our weight is equally distributed between both feet. And then we'll start to shift over to the left side as we begin to lift those right knee up into a bend, 90-degree bend. You can hold on your knee with your hand or even your strap. And take just a couple of ankle circles here, slowly rotating through that ankle. And find a spot on the floor that's not moving to help focus while you balance. Now reverse those ankle circles. Great job.
Now we have an option here to stay up tall and just simply work on the balance of standing with this knee bent. Or if you'd like to take a forehead to knee pose, maybe begin to hinge at the hips, trying to draw that forehead towards your knee just a little bit more than it is. So there's a little rounding in the spine here. Great job. As gracefully as you can, start to come back up to a straight spine. If you took the curl in the spine, and then let's drop that right knee and foot to the floor. Take any adjustments you need. And then let's take it on to the left side. So we begin to bend that left knee a little or a lot, and we'll take those ankle circles slow as can be. And then reverse them. Slow as can be. Great job. All right, again, maybe you're staying here, simply working on the standing and the balancing, or maybe you start to make it a little bit harder, pushing yourself a little bit more, drawing forehead down towards your knee for just a couple of breaths. Great job. Inhale, start to slowly unfurl, coming back to your straight spine. And then we'll exhale to release. Beautiful job. All right, inhale, circle arms, float them up, 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 up. Exhale, slice it down with a prayer into your forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, bring it down to the floor into a tabletop once more. We'll take a spinal balance as we send the right arm and the left leg behind us, toes either down or maybe lifted. Exhale, curling elbow to knee under the torso. Inhale, reach it out really long. Drop the right hand, drop the left toes, but keep the leg extended as you press out through the heel. Inhale, tabletop. Extending left arm and right leg. Spinal balance. Slowly exhaling knee to elbow, rounding through the spine. Inhale to send it long. Exhale to release left hand and right foot to the floor to take the calf stretch, pressing through that left heel. Great job. Inhale through tabletop. And let's push through to a seated pose. And come into a butterfly, letting the soles of the feet come together, the knees out wide. We'll sit up tall through our spine. And with an exhale, begin to walk your hands forward. You could have a prop under them, or you could even bring the palms face up as you hinge into this forward fold over your butterfly. Our inhale brings us on a slow roll back to our straight spine. We'll hold the knees as we press the legs together and begin to send them out long in that seated staff. We'll inhale to bring our arms up to shoulder height and then point those toes away from you. And with your exhale, begin to curl one vertebra at a time as you come down into a long, straight pose on the floor. And then circle the hands overhead. We'll point fingertips and toes in opposite directions for just a moment. And then with our exhale, circle hands down by the hips. As we inhale, we tuck the thumbs by our hips and begin to walk our elbows underneath our shoulders as we come into a fish pose. Now for the lower body, you can keep those legs straight or come into a constructive rest, or maybe even a butterfly if that feels best for you. Our upper body, we're taking a fish pose. We're resting on our elbows. And just like before, we're keeping our neck lengthened and strong. But this time there's an option to allow the head to drop towards the floor, opening up through the front of the neck. Beautiful job. One last breath in our fish pose of choice. With our exhale, go ahead and release the elbows, coming back down onto your back. We'll squeeze the right knee in towards the chest for just a little bit of compression. And then slowly guide it over to the left side of the floor. You could bring it into a prop if wanted. We're going to take just a gentle breath and a twist here. And then slowly unwind through center. Bringing left knee in towards your chest. A little compression at the hip. Our exhale slowly moves that left knee to the right side of the floor or a prop. So we can take a breath in this twist. Let's exhale to unwind the spine. This time both knees come in towards the chest. You could take it a little rock left to right or even along the spine, rocking and rolling. And then we'll find our way into a happy baby, letting the knees come out towards the side of the body. You can hold on the feet or toes or even the thighs, or if you have that strap, you can wrap your strap around the soles of your feet. You can rock a little left to right. You could find stillness. You could straighten one leg and then the other. You could straighten both legs or bend them into a frog pose. It's really up to you how you want to move for this last few moments of our practice. And then as you're ready, begin to start making your way into your final resting pose. This pose can look like anything that looks like rest for you. It could be a constructive rest or a corpse pose. You could add props under the knees or under the feet. You could take it into a legs up the wall even, or add pillows and blankets. Anything that helps you start to come into a place of rest. As we settle in here, we'll allow that breath to come back into a slower pace, letting it be deeper, more intentional. Really make yourself comfortable and take a few breaths to settle into your body. Maybe allowing the muscles in the face to grow heavier. The shoulders to start to press into the surface they're resting on. Even the hips grow heavier. Your body is filled with water and sinking to the bottom of this space. It's hard to remember to slow down. We are a society of hairs. We are constantly connected and pulled. We pride ourselves on productivity and efficiency. But our bodies are not designed to be constantly in motion. And when we multitask, we literally nap through our race. We miss out on real life. So many things can offer us simple joy. A morning cup of coffee or tea, The way a cool summer breeze brushes past the skin on a hot day. Or even a refreshing dip in a pool. The sweltering heat above us warms us. When we allow ourselves to slow down and be in the present moment for a few moments each day, we might find that life is so much richer than we ever imagined. Today, we'll take this exercise together. We'll begin by starting to think about a typical day in your life. Thinking about the routines and the habits that happen every day. And try to pinpoint one activity or one habit or even one moment in your day that gives you simple pleasure or even a sense of peace. It can be something small, like a certain meal, or the way the sunlight hits your wall in the morning. And I'll give you just a moment to reflect on one of those moments in your day. Now really begin to visualize yourself in this moment, doing this moment, doing this thing or this activity. But allow it to slow down. Hit the slow motion button. As we take the time to focus on each of our senses, as we experience mentally this moment, as we start, try to picture what this moment looks like, the things that are around you, anything that you can see. And then, taking a deep breath, focus on the smells of this moment. Maybe there's a strong smell associated with it, or maybe only subtle ones, or smells that surround it but aren't necessarily related to it. And then noticing the sounds of this moment or activity. Again, they might be subtle sounds, maybe big sounds. And then what does this moment taste like? Either directly or indirectly. And when you put all of these senses together, emotionally and mentally, what does this moment feel like for you? See if you can allow yourself to sit with the fullness of this experience, knowing that you have nothing else to do and nowhere else to be except this moment. Taking a deep breath in. And a slow exhale out. Allows you to release this moment from your visual memory. As you return into your present space, feeling the heaviness of your body against your props. It's easy to feel rushed in our daily lives. And sometimes our to-do list is no joke. But when we take a few moments to savor an experience, to fully engage with all 5 of our senses, we slow that experience of time. And we can find pleasure in the simple moments that we tend to simply overlook. We find the balance of the tortoise and the hare, stillness and movement, pleasure and purpose. There is time for it all. So as we take a final deep breath in and out, maybe you bring a hand to your heart and repeat this mantra after me, or change it so that it feels more authentic to words you might say. I have time to slow down. I have time to slow down. When you're ready, let your hands rest. Take the deepest breath of your day so far. And then in your own time, in your own way, start to make it into an upright position facing me.